Okay, I guess we can start. Yeah, okay. So hello everyone and welcome to this Developing an Android TV app session. My name is Sebastiano Gottardo. I'm an Android engineer at Music Match. So quick question before we start. How many of you did actually attend the previous Android TV session here? Okay, great. So for those of you who couldn't make it, I strongly suggest you to wait for the videos to be uploaded and to watch the video of that session because we kind of split the arguments so that to give you guys the most comprehensive knowledge on this subject. So we can start by a brief introduction to the Android TV platform. And so what is Android TV? It's basically Android for TVs, where you can play games, you can watch movies and videos, you can listen to music and all that kind of stuff. Especially the kind of stuff that deals with multimedia, because mainly Android TV is an entertainment system. So it's everything that floats around multimedia content. So how can you get one? Well, you can either buy an Nexus player or a Razer Forge, or you can also buy a TV from the likes of Sony or Sharp that come with Android TV pre-installed as an OS. But we as developers need to keep in mind some key concepts when developing for Android TV. The first one is that the user interface has to be simple, it has to be cinematic, and it has to be beautiful. Because just imagine the scenario where the user is just laying on the couch and is just chilling, basically. And he doesn't want to be bothered into figuring out how your application works or how he can actually get access to the content. He just wants to press a button and see the content. So, and also he's watching this experience on a big, like 50-inch screen, beautiful screen. So he expects that, since it's a TV basically, to be amazing, to be beautiful. So keep in mind that the interface has to be both simple and beautiful to the user. And also try to keep in mind that this is like an entertainment system. So it's everything about multimedia, but not beyond that. So you probably wouldn't want to create an application that fills PDF forms, right? Because it just doesn't make sense to do on a TV. It just doesn't fit the context. So try to keep it on the multimedia side. And finally, since, again, it's a TV basically, you need to ease and streamline the user experience as much as possible. So I know some services are like super complicated to get access to, and they like need you to go through complicated login procedures or to go through authorization steps. But this like the user is just chilling, so it doesn't want to go through all of this. So try to find another solution to get the user to the content as easy as possible. But this looks like kind of a lot of stuff to keep in mind at the same time. Thankfully, Google has already thought of this problem and has offered us developers a way to develop great TV applications without too much hassle by means of the Limbeck library. So how many of you have ever heard of this library before? Like, okay, not that many. That's good, so I can explain what it is. So it's basically a support library made by Google for us developers to build awesome TV experiences and TV applications for the user. More specifically, it's a set of widgets and utilities that we can use to build TV applications that are specifically tailored to work great on TV devices and on big screens. The way you can get it is by simply adding a dependency on your build.gradle file, which is the following one. So include that and you're basically good to go to use Limbeck. The structure of Limbeck is shown here. As you can see, we have 6 main components. All of them are fragments. And we're going to go through each one of them, explaining what does it do, how and where should you use it. And also, in some cases, we're also going to take a look at the code that is required to make it work. But before we dive right into the first component of the library, which is the browse fragment, let me give you a friendly tip about the Limbeck structure. So I assume most of you are familiar with the MVC, which stands for Model View Controller. But the thing is that leanback uses the MVP, which stands for Model View Presenter. And the main difference here is that the view is not tied to the model in any way, but everything goes through the presenter, which is great both for like logic separation of the layers and for testing, because we can provide our mock views to the presenter. Okay, so we can start with the first component, which is browse fragment. It's probably the main entry point for your application because it allows us to display a list of media items right in the center of the screen. We have a list of categories on the left. We have the big logo company on the top right part, and we have a search icon on the top left part. As you can imagine and see, I'm going to use the Music Match TV application as a showcase here to show you the capabilities of the leanback library. Okay, so the main interaction here is that the user is able to navigate through the interface with this remote or his mobile device. Every time a card gets selected, it gets bigger, so that to give some emphasis to it. And the user can basically just select one or go back to the categories part, just navigate up and down, and so on. You can either trigger search or select an item. So it's basically it. As we said, it's probably the main entry point for your application, and it allows you to display a list of media items with a minimum of code. It is made of a list of rows of elements on the right by means of the rows fragment, and a list of categories on the left part by means of the headers fragment. And the thing is that there is something particular here, is that every row on the right matches a header on the left. And this may not sound like a big deal right now, but trust me, it's going to matter throughout the presentation at some point. We also want to take a look at the code that is required to make browse fragment work. And in particular, we want to just create the first row, the popular one, which features the top songs of the moment. So let's take a look at the code. And here it is. So yeah, it's basically like 10 lines of code. It's pretty easy. And the main idea here is that we need to create a general adapter that is going to contain a list of rows. And we're going to need an adapter for each one of the rows that we're going to put into the main one. So basically, since we're just using one row of elements, we're going to need a general adapter and an adapter for that row. And we can start with the general one, which is the rows adapter. We need to create an array object adapter that takes as a parameter a list row presenter, because we want to display list of elements. It's going to be set as the main adapter later on. But then we can create the second adapter, the one for the popular row. So this time, again, we create an array object adapter, but this time it uses a card presenter, because we want each item of the list of elements to look like a card. And to this very adapter, we add all the elements, all the top tracks that we want the user to see. And then we have all the pieces, and we just need to put them together. So the way we can do that is by creating a list row object that takes as a parameter an header, which is like a popular header item, and the row adapter that we have just created. Then we add this list row object to the main adapter, and we basically are good to go. So nothing more than this. 10 lines of code, extremely easy and extremely powerful. And the effect is super nice, as you have seen before. Browse fragment also allows some kind of customization. For example, we can specify whether the top right part displays a textual title, for example, the name of our company, or the logo of our company by means of a drawable. Unfortunately, you cannot set both, because if you set the logo, it's going to take over the title, of course. Then we can also specify that the categories part, the header part on the left, is either enabled or disabled. We can specify the transitions to and from it, and also we can specify some stuff about the coloring. So by calling the setBrandColor method, we can customize the way that the card background looks when the user selects it, or the color of the headers part on the left. And also, we can also call the set search affordance color, which is going to color the search icon on the top left part. And this is it for browse fragment. So as you can see, it's super simple to use and also customizable up to some point. And we can move to the second component, which is the details fragment. So we can use details fragment whenever we want to display additional information to the user whenever he selects an item. And the basic interaction here is that the user selects an item, for example, this song, and you get this nice card with an image on the left and a title, a subtitle, a body, and a list of actions to the bottom. And the user can either select one of them or just go back if it's not interested. Yeah, we said that it's we can use it to display additional information to the user. It's also super cool because we can, it matches the color that we specify in the setBrandColor method on browse fragment. And also super cool again because we can provide a list of additional items to the bottom. For example, if the user selects a song, we can display a list of songs by the same artist, which is pretty handy. And we want to also take a look at the code that is required to make details fragment work. And in this case, we want to replicate this very card. So a card for a song with an image on the left, a textual body on the center, and a list of actions to the bottom. The code looks like this. It's a bit more than browse fragment, but nothing too scary here. The main idea is that we're going to need, again, a general adapter. But this time, all the work is going to be taken care of, sort of, by the details overview row object, which, as you can see, allows us to specify an image, which is the one on the left, and a list of actions, which are the ones on the bottom. But how can we customize all the textual part? Well, turns out we can use the details overview row presenter, which expects, as an argument, a class that extends the abstract details description presenter, which I know it may sound like troublesome, but as you can see, it's not that much. Because once we get into that class, we have the onBind description method through which view holder we can get access to the title, the subtitle, and the body of the card. Which we can populate by setting, for example, the track name and the artist and some text. And the text, in this case, it's loathsome because I hate that song. But yeah, again, we have all the components here. We just need to put them together. And we can do so by creating the main adapter, to which we pass the presenter that we have just created, and we add the row that we have created before. So this is it. Again, it's probably like 20 to 25 lines of code to make that super cool effect and super cool, useful widget to work. Another feature that the user expects, probably in your TV application, is the ability of searching through content. And the way we can do so is probably by using the search fragment. So the use case here is that the user probably is going to press the search button on the upper left part of browse fragment or any other view inside your application, or he can also press the mic button on his remote or his mobile device, and it's going to be triggered the same action. So it looks like this. The user presses the search button, and he gets this nice interface where he can type the text with the virtual keyboard or say it out loud, and gets this list of results. You can either select one or go back or perform another search and this kind of stuff. Yeah, so basically it's used when the user wants to search for some content inside your application. And also, in this case, the results can be either in a single row or in multiple rows. It depends on the type of search you want him to do. And the code that makes search fragment work looks like this, basically. The thing that you need to pay attention to here is that your search fragment is going to need to extend the search fragment class and to implement the search result provider interface. This means we're going to need to override some methods, but we're going to get to them as soon as we get into the code. The idea here is similar to what we've seen on browse fragment. So we need a general adapter and one adapter per each row that we want to put into the search fragment. In this case, just one, so two adapters, the main one and the row one. The first one uses the list row presenter because, again, it's a list of rows. And the second one uses a card presenter because the items, we want to look them to look like a card. One important thing here to notice is the set search result provider method that we need to call in order for search fragment to display the results. By extending this search fragment class, we get access to, we can override the getResult adapter method by returning our main adapter. And also by implementing the search result provider interface, we get access to these two nice methods: the onQuery text change, which is triggered every time the user is typing text, so the query changes. And the second one is onQuery text submit, which is triggered every time the user presses the search button, actually. Finally, when you want to display the results, you can just clear the previous adapter and add all the new results, and then update the main adapter by creating a new list row object with the adapter that you have just created. And that's basically it for search fragment. Then we have another nice component offered by the Leanback library, which is vertical grid fragment, which you should consider using when you want to display a long list of items to the user. And browse fragment, in this case, is not very suitable to this task. So it looks like this. The user selects a category and sees this nice list of elements in a vertical fashion. And the background changes as soon as the user hovers on a different card. And you can just navigate up, down, left, right, whatever, and select an item, or go back, depending on what he wants to do. Then moving on to the error fragment, which, big surprise, displays an error to the user. So the user selects something. You probably can't see the message because it's a little bit too dim, but there is a textual message in the center and a got it button. So yeah, no big surprise here. And finally, we have the playback overlay fragment, which is super handy when the user is enjoying some full screen content, like a video or some music or a slideshow of images, and you want to give him control, but you don't want them to be persistent on the screen. So the effect that basically looks like is that the controls slide up from the bottom, and you get this nice list of controls and actions and a list of additional items. And after some time, the controls just slide back and fade to the bottom, which is a super cool effect and doesn't get in the way when you don't want it to. OK, we can sum it up for Leanback library. We know that it's a set of widgets and elements that are specifically tailored to work for TV devices out of the box. And a thing that you may or may not have noticed is that the D-pad navigation just works. And this is something that you're going to need to consider if you were thinking of not using Leanback to develop your application, because you're going to need to do it by yourself. And this goes also for the mic input. Also, we have seen that some components can be customized up to some point, for example, browse fragment or details fragment. And a very cool thing is that since most applications are going to rely on the Leanback library, the user doesn't need to understand how to use your application, because they're going to look like the structure is going to be similar, so he just knows where everything is before he uses actually your application. This is both a good thing, but also a bad thing, because probably all the applications are going to look like alike one to the other. So yeah, we need to pay attention to that. And also, if you want to customize Leanback even further, you are going to clash into a problem by means of a limitation, especially on the browse fragment component, because you see, we said before that every row on the right in browse fragment is tied to an either on the left. But the thing is that you cannot map more than one row to the same either. And this is because browse fragment only allows child that extend from the row base class. And this means that things like subcategories or custom fragments don't really play along with browse fragment. And this limitation, in some cases, is just too big to be ignored. Like, you really need to use subcategories, because otherwise you're going to just have an endless list of content that for the user is going to be painful to navigate within. And the question here is, can you actually go custom? Can you tailor the Leanback library to work with this limit? The thing is, yes, you can go custom. No, it's not that easy, because basically you're going to need to use manually the ethers fragment and the rows fragment, and to replicate the browse fragment behavior manually. Thankfully, you don't need to go through all the pain by yourself, because we already did, basically. And you can either read the series of articles that I've written about this subject, or even better, you can clone this GitHub repo and use that as the base for your project, because it already allows, it already offers a custom version of browse fragment where you can load whatever fragment type you want, which is pretty awesome. Moving on to the final part of this presentation, I can share with you some tips and tricks that come into play when developing for Android TV. And the first question that has been asked so many times in the past is, should I extend my application and make it work for TVs, or should I start from scratch? Well, obviously, I cannot give you the answer to this question, but I can give you some hints and some consideration that you're going to need to take into account when taking that decision. And the first one is, of course, the time. So if you're on a tight schedule and you need to develop super fast, you probably want to extend your existing application and make it work for TVs, because all the code you need is already there, the project is already set up, you already know where the stuff is and how to use it. So it's going to be faster to develop for Android TV. On the other hand, if you have some time and you want to play around with the application structure, which is something that you usually cannot do with your main application because the structure is already there and it's usually hard to change it, then you should consider going for a separate project and start from scratch and experiment with new libraries and this kind of stuff, because it also feels good as a developer. And the second point that you need to take into account is the Play Store entry. So if you extend your existing application, you're going to benefit from the same amount of reviews and the same user base of your main application, which is great or not, because it depends on your current Play Store situation. So if you have a super awesome user base and all the reviews are 4 or 5 stars, of course it's going to be great because it's gonna benefit the Android TV one. But on the other hand, if you have bad reviews on the Android part, and you really feel that your application is going to be awesome on TVs, you should probably consider going for a separate Play Store entry and start from scratch, basically. And finally, try to pay attention to the APK size, because as you, of course, know, the users are kind of, I don't know, silly when it comes to the APK size, and they don't want it to increase even though you're adding so many features. So if you add support for Android TV, the APK size is gonna increase, and it's not a big problem for TV users because probably they're plugged into the home connection and they won't even see the APK size. But for mobile users, since the APK is the same, they're going to notice a lot. And if the APK size increases that much, you're going to get many complaints about the APK size, like, hey, what did you do? You didn't add anything, and the APK went 4 megabytes up, and it's not fair, and you should burn to hell. So you don't want that, of course. If you're wondering what we did at Music Smash, we decided to go for a fresh start, because we didn't want to impact the main APK size, so we didn't want users to bitch about the APK size, and also because we wanted to play around with a new application structure, and we wanted to use different libraries. And finally, because we were kind of the first one to develop for TV, so we had to take that decision. We haven't regretted yet, so it's something that you can consider. Also, going into some more coding tips, we have the background manager class, which is super handy, and it allows us to display an image in the background, for example, when the user is navigating through the browse fragment interface. The code to make it work, it's super simple. And you get an instance of the background manager class. You attach it to the current activities window, and you can either set the bitmap object if you already have it decoded, or you can rely on an image loading library from the likes of Picasso or Glide or Fresco. and load it asynchronously. You should also consider adding some blur to the image because it adds that nice effect that doesn't distract the user from the content that much. And another trick that you can take advantage of is the ability of remaining visible when the user navigates to the home. So consider this, we're inside the Music Match application and we're watching a video, but suddenly the user presses the home button. And what we can see is that the video keeps playing in the background, which is super cool and super awesome for a user. And if the user presses the home button again, goes back into Music Match and the video keeps playing seamlessly. And you may wonder, hey, what is the code like to make this super cool effect? It's really like this. So it's one line method that is called request visible behind, where you pass through, of course, and you need to call it between the onResume and onPause methods of your activity. Pay attention that it's not guaranteed that your activity is going to be eligible to be displayed in the background. So you need to check the result of the method, which is the Boolean result there. And in terms of eligibility, this is only available to full screen opaque activities. So no go for dialogues and no go for transparent activities, unfortunately. Then I have two more tips that regard content discovery for the user. And the first one is the recommendation system. So as you can see here, Android TV offers in the home screen the possibility of pushing new content to the user. As you can see, we have like some YouTube new videos, and we have like the top lyrics of the week by Music Match. And the good thing of this is that you don't need to learn anything new to take advantage of this possibility, because at the core, it's using the notification builder that you already know, of course. And with the big style notification, this is really all it takes, like using the notification system that Android offers. And finally, you should consider making your application global searchable. So Android TV offers this global search functionality that works in a Google Now style way. And the content from your application can appear there as well. It's not like super straightforward because you're going to need to create a custom content provider. And it's quite a lot of code, actually. But the documentation in this case is super handy and it's extremely well written. So you should take a look at it and definitely consider making your application global searchable. So I'm pretty much done, I'd say. I'm leaving the documentation links here and the link to my series of articles about Android TV. If you want to stay like really up to date with the latest TV news and follow awesome guys or ask development questions about Android TV, you should definitely follow these three guys, me being one of them. So I guess we have some time for the questions, so thank you.